Powered by MPB, this is Chalkboard Chat, an MPB education podcast, hosted by Jermaine Flood and Tara Wren. To hear this episode and more, visit education.mpbonline.org or download the MPB Public Media app to listen on your iPhone or Android device.
I sat down with school counselors from across the state of Mississippi to chat about their passion for counseling, the current state of the profession in response to COVID-19, and the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in counseling students. With over 100 plus years of shared education experience between them, these school counselors are more than deserving for recognition.
Hello, my name is Lori Taylor. I am the school counselor at Hills Chapel School in the Prentiss County School District, Boonville, Mississippi.
Hi, my name is Deanna Rush, and I am the high school counselor at Union High School in Union, Mississippi.
Hi, this is Crystal Brewer. I am the school counselor at Simpson Central School in the Simpson County School District in Panola, Mississippi.
Hi, I'm Maria Fields, school counselor, Woolfolk Middle School, Yazoo City, Mississippi.
Hi, I'm Tabatha Kenney, school counselor for Jackson Public School.
I also sat down with married counseling couple Deon Harrington and Crystal Carter-Harrington with North Panola High School in Sardis, Mississippi. And I'm Jermaine Flood. This is Chalkboard Chat. Class is now in session. I sat down with each counselor to discuss what led them to pursue a career in counseling.
Hills Chapel is located close to my home, so it's a community school. I'm very vested in our community. My children both went through this school. And then I always wanted to be a teacher from 8th grade. I wanted to be a teacher, and then it just evolved to seeing needs of students and wanting to try to meet those needs in a different way from the classroom, and that's what led me to pursue school counseling.
Okay, well, I have a total of 21 years in education, and I started as a high school English teacher and could just really see a need with my students for an advocate, just someone who could be a go-between between the students and the teachers, or students and club sponsors, students in the community, and sometimes even students and their families. And it was difficult to do that while being their English teacher, because I needed to make sure that they met those English standards and they were prepared for the ACT and they were prepared for a variety of expectations on the English curriculum. And so I really didn't have a lot of time to help them with the other things that I saw a need for. So that led me to go back to school and get my counseling degree. And so I did that, and I've been doing that for 8 years. Now, I also have an administration degree, and so I did some administration for a little while, but I've come back to counseling because that's just where I feel like I'm called to be. That's where my passion is, and it's where I feel like I can do the most good for the most students.
I always loved children. I knew I wanted to work with children. I knew I was very interested in mental health and psychology and social emotional well-being. And so when I went to college, I got my undergrad in psychology, and then I had begun my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. And then as I began to do practicums and internships to kind of really figure out what I wanted to do, I really wasn't finding anything that I just felt like fit and kind of spoke to me professionally. And so I decided to give school counseling a try. And I went and did an internship with Miss Gwen Hitt at Collins Middle School, and it just clicked. I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I fell in love with school counseling and all the possibilities of what a school counselor could do for children.
Actually, I just fell on it. It was just in my blood to help others feel comfortable talking to me. So I had to pick something after my bachelor's, and I just decided, you know what, let's give school counseling a shot. At first, it was supposed to be mental health, which I did that for like 8 years, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and try school counseling, and I love the children.
You know, I can just say that as far back as I can remember, I've always been a helper. Even when I was a child, I wanted to help. I was always helping people. And And I knew, I didn't have a name for it. However, I realized early on that I wanted to do something that involved helping people. And so fast forward a few years, and it has just manifested into a career in counseling.
Initially in college, I was interested in counseling, and my wife, she was teaching. She was telling me all about teaching. You should go into education. You should go into education. And I was like, I don't know if I want to teach, but I had a passion for talking to people, and I have that kind of personality where people kind of open up to me. And when we graduated, my wife was just telling me, she was saying, this was prior to us getting married. She said, I think you should consider getting into education. And so I dabbled and dabbled into a few things. I was a juvenile counselor at first for this area, for Panola County. Then I kind of transitioned into career counseling. It was an opening at in this school district, and she told me, she said, I think it'll be a good fit. So I went on and got my master's in guidance and counseling from Alcorn State University, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, as far as teaching, I have a long line of educators. So it was instilled in me, I guess, when I was 4 years old, I would play teacher at home with my cousins. So I knew early on that I wanted to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was a teacher for 4 years before becoming a counselor. I was trained how to teach students and reach them on the academic level, but I really wanted to learn how to reach them on a social and emotional level. And so I pursued a master's, and I graduated from Alcorn State with a master's in guidance and counseling.
Maria Fields and Crystal Brewer gave me their take on qualities that they deemed as important to possess as a school counselor.
You have to be able to build rapport. If you cannot reach those children, you can just give it up.
I think to be an effective counselor, you, have to be really in tune with people's emotions and be able to empathize. You have to be a compassionate person because you're going to be dealing with a lot of hard, difficult, unpredictable situations that our students face each and every day. So you have to really have a love for the children. On top of that, you have to be really flexible, because this job is different every single day. It is really important that you are somebody who focuses on relationships, because at the end of the day, kids know if you love them and if you are genuine and real. And so if you aren't going to do that and prioritize them, you're never going to be able to make the connections that's really going to allow you to have that impact that you need to have as a school counselor. So I think that is very important. I also think you just need to be a person of integrity, because there are a lot of hard calls that have to be made in the role of a school counselor. And so being that person of character, that person with integrity, is really valuable in this role.
I also sat down with Lori Taylor, and she discussed what role professional development plays in becoming a great counselor.
The professional development that I can attest to have helped me a lot are more of hands-on type activities where I'm actually involved with the students in the classroom, in the situations that they're facing. So I'm able to see a little bit more from their eyes, their perspective, and try to incorporate meeting their needs and having a school-wide curriculum that is centered on our students and then the unique needs of our community.
I asked Tabatha, Kenney, and Deon Harrington to tell me a story about a student that they've counseled who has had issues during the pandemic and what exactly they did to address that issue.
I know when the pandemic originally started, back in the spring, we were all kind of caught off guard. And so I reached out to my students. I gave them my personal cell phone and asked them, to call me if they needed me. I was there for them, and they really did. And I had one particular student, before I got off the phone, she wanted, are you sure you're going to call me now? Are you going to call me? And I said, I'm going to call you. And got busy the next day and forgot to call. But later that evening, I called her, and even though it was after hours, I called her just to tell her that I had not forgotten about her. And she really, you could tell she had been crying. She just says, the living situation that she was in did not allow her to get outside because I had advised her to kind of get outside, get fresh air, try to clear your mind, and she wasn't able to do that. And so we just kind of came up with some things she could do while she's in quarantine and not able to be around people. And so she called me quite often just to thank me and tell me, she, practiced some of those suggestions, and that she felt like she was going to make it, because she didn't feel like she would make it in the environment that she was in at the time.
I thought about something from like a few weeks ago. Like one of my students, she's a senior. She was just telling me, she reached out and said, Mr. Harrington, I've lost motivation. I just feel like I just don't even care about school anymore. And it's like, I said, don't ever feel that way, because you have people here that are supporting you and that are trying to encourage you and tell you, keep pushing, because you're almost there. Because once these few months pass, you're in college. You don't have to worry about the 12th grade year anymore. 2020, 2021.
Look at the bright side.
You look at the bright side. Even though it's different, it's not just different for you, it's different for the world. She said, thanks so much for that encouragement. And she reached out to a few more teachers, and she kind of put us all into a group email, and everyone was kind of pushing her. I'm telling you, you can do it. Please don't give up. Please come up here anytime. Just wear your mask.
Right.
It is said that students benefit when the student population is reflected in their educators, but demographics sometimes differ between the students, teachers, and counselors in the same school or even school district. I sat down with Lori Taylor and Deanna Rush, and they expressed to me how they address this issue to ensure that no student feels left behind.
I feel like that goes back to an earlier statement that I made about trying to see from their eyes, their perspective, and realizing that, the statistics that we actually unfortunately are faced with is that primarily the counselors are white females, and that is not reflective of our student body. And so we have to try to empower them with their own voice and, advocate actually for them taking an active role in their education, what they need.
Well, that is very true, and it's true in our school district as well. The staff ratio is not equal to the student ratio in race and socioeconomic status. But the one thing that we try to do is to make sure that, when a student comes into my office, I hope that 100% of my kids can tell you that I don't see their socioeconomic status. I don't see their race. I hope that they all can, and I feel like they all would tell you that when they come in, they know that I'm going to help student A just as quickly as I'm going to help student B, and that they all are supported. And that you have to work to do that. You have to work to earn students' trust. That's where your door always has to be open, and you can't ever put paperwork ahead of them. You can't ever not be there and you have to be there in the little things, because when you're there for them in the little things, then they know they can trust you with the big things, and they know that you've got their back no matter, what's going on, just to help them feel supported, be a listening ear, make sure that they all know they're welcome, they're all loved, regardless of any differences that we have. And the other thing is that they all have equal access to opportunities. FAFSA, for so many of our kids, it's they're the first generation who's gone to college. Everybody needs to understand that, how important that is. Everybody needs to have an extra help when they're doing their college application. So that's why we do college application days and, and that kind of thing. And so I want to make sure that 100% of the kids have those opportunities. They all have equal access, so that nobody has an unfair advantage just because you come from a different home than another student.
Crystal Carter-Harrington, Crystal Brewer, and Maria Fields all told me what their greatest accomplishment is so far as a school counselor.
My job as the CTE counselor is to expose the students to careers in college and the military, like I mentioned before. So I attended many workshops where people were talking about the internships that they were providing for their students, and they were doing this and doing that. Industries were coming in. We're a small school, I work at North Panola School District, and we also have South Panola in our county too. So we don't really get, I guess, as much participation as the other school gets. So I started reaching out to our local industry, colleges, the branches of the military, saying, hey, come see my students, come and see them, give them the same opportunity. And so in 2015, we hosted a career fair where we had all of the branches of the military, local industry from out of state, 4-year colleges, career and technical colleges, community colleges. Started out with about 20 vendors or, participants.
Yeah.
And it grew into over 60 vendors. We had representatives from everywhere here at North Panola High School in the gymnasium. So the students were like, oh, wow. We introduced them to careers like being a lineman. We're always preaching college. When I say we're, the academic side, the high school, but college does not determine success. So anyway, long story short, annual career fair turned into a county-wide event last year. So it was called Panola Made, and our local workforce, the Economic Development Office, they stood behind us, and we made it a county-wide event where all of the high schools in the county were able to go into the Civic Center. We have a Civic Center in Batesville, and it was a big event. Everyone was there, well represented. The students were, they behaved really well. They learned so much, and they made connections to get jobs after high schools.
One of my favorite things is, as a school counselor, I'm also a mom to 3 children. My middle baby was diagnosed with dyslexia when she was a second grader. And not long after that, we had a student who was here, and she was in 3rd grade at that time. She's a twin. And she was really, really struggling. And through my experience of the process of my daughter being diagnosed with dyslexia, I came to kind of see some of the warning signs in this child. And as we were approaching the end of that school year, she had been tested and diagnosed. We had gone through that whole process. But, based on the policies of our school district, she should have been retained, and her twin sister would have been promoted based on grades alone. And so I really kind of took that to heart, because I imagined what that would be like if that was my daughter in that situation. And I spent a lot of time advocating and working with our principal and with our district personnel. And we kind of came to the agreement that she would continue dyslexia therapy through that summer. And then we would reassess her before the school year started. And after she got what she needed through that summer, she was able to come back and be retested and promote on to the 4th grade. But if that were just strictly based on the district's policy at the time, that would not have been, able for her to do that. And so I always kind of go back to that situation and to that young lady, because I think that as school counselors in particular, we need to look at the whole child, not just academics, not just we're getting them ready for college and career, but the social emotional piece as well. And we need to advocate for what is best for that individual child. Sometimes our policies, our procedures, the things that we have written down on paper, that's not what's the best thing for that kid. And as school counselors, I think that we should always be looking at the child as a whole and all their needs, and then we need to advocate for what's the best thing for that individual child.
My greatest accomplishment by far is having all the kids refer to me as auntie. I'm everyone's auntie at this school, and that makes me feel like we have created a family atmosphere here at Woolfolk Middle School, and that's what the goal is. Be able to go and talk to your auntie, let her know what's going on, and see if we can try to get through those little kinks that we have. And my kids all come to me, and I promise you, if you were to walk in my school today, they say, "Oh, that's TT." And so that's my greatest accomplishment right now.
National School Counseling Week 2021 was February the 1st through the 5th, and it focused on bringing public attention to the unique contribution of school counselors within the U.S. school systems. I spoke with Tabatha, Kenney, and Crystal Brewer, and they told me how much they enjoyed the celebration that week.
Oh, fun is an understatement. Jackson Public Schools rolled out the red carpet virtually, and we had a ball.
It was great. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year because we get to highlight what school counselors do. And I think that's so important because not many careers have kind of evolved over time the way school counseling has. And so it's really important for us to educate, to advocate, help people kind of understand what the modern day school counselor is all about. And so it was a great week, and I really got to show some appreciation for the people who support the school counseling program and put out some good information. And I got to take part in some great events that were going on to celebrate the School Counselor of the Year for the nation. So it was a good week.
Chalkboard Chat would like to thank all the school counselors featured in this episode for their dedication to the profession. If you or someone you know would like to be featured on Chalkboard Chat, visit us at chalkboardchat.mpbonline.org for more information. Class is now dismissed.
You've been listening to Chalkboard Chat, an MPB education podcast. To hear this episode and more, visit education.mpbonline.org or download the MPB Public Media app to listen on your iPhone or Android device. This podcast is hosted with love by ACAT.